Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at the web and web-based content resources. Now, I know it's hard to believe, but there was a time not too long ago when there was no World Wide Web. And as a matter of fact, I lived in that time. So it's very different than how I grew up. But when we're talking about navigating the web, we're using URLs, Uniform Resource Locators, and we navigate using links, and we can add our bookmarks or favorites, but then we go back and we organize them. Some of us do, I do. And then sometimes you can use online organizers. Also, we can navigate with buttons, or we could navigate with a browser history. And then one of my favorite ways to navigate is using those QR codes, because you can scan them with your phone and get to information really quickly that way. So now sometimes we're going to be required to download software or have plugins or different apps. And so when you're doing this, and this is something you've got to do and you've got to remind your children, you always want to download or update computer software from reputable websites. You want to be careful what you're putting on your computer. And then download the mobile apps from an app finding program on your mobile device. And then you can also download plugins or extensions or add-ons, things like Google Translate or G-Translate, Adobe Acrobat Reader, Pear Deck and Nearpod. Those are two that I personally use. AdBlock and Grammarly. I know a lot of you have that on as well. So sometimes you're going to have to be the tech person at your school as far as when you're using technology in your class, and sometimes you're going to have to troubleshoot. So problem number one, you're going to have something called a site connection failure, and this can be caused by syntax errors, or maybe the server's down, or there's too much traffic to a certain site, or it could sometimes simply be a bad link or a dead link, sometimes a firewall that's preventing you from getting to a site. Another problem you might have is some non-working features on a website or a location, and this is usually because there's a missing plugin or a missing extension that is needed. But we've got to teach our kids how to search the web for information. Now, you can use engines such as Google, Bing, Yahoo, AOL, web crawler. They're all going to use different algorithms to crawl or to search their web. And then new information is indexed in a database based on the content that's found. In many, many cases, the first few links that are shown are not the most relevant. They are paid advertisements. So you want to make sure you're getting relevant, not paid information. So different strategies you can use when searching. First off, looking up keywords or search phrase. And in doing this, don't use questions or don't use full sentences. You want to limit searches. Add a minus sign immediately before the keyword that you want to avoid. And then use quotes. You can search a specific phrase using quotes. Then there's also advanced search features. So after typing anything in a Google search, you can click on settings and then select advanced search to specify exact words that you're looking for. You can also use that advanced search function to help you narrow results. So you can select that they'll only pull up results that are in English, or indicate terms as appearing in the text of the page, or choosing safe search, because that's going to hide any sort of explicit results. Now, researching and reference tools. So there's lots of online databases out there, and they aggregate information from magazines, newspapers, encyclopedias, biographies, and sometimes images. ERIC is a big one we use in teaching. And then there's online encyclopedias where you can research topics and specific content. And by this, I'm not talking Wikipedia, by the way. Then there's also digital atlases and mapping tools. And then digital dictionaries are great to help you and your students. When you find a word in a text that you don't know, you can find it out right away. So information literacy this is skill development. And so we want opportunities to learn to use the web and the resources that we can teach students to learn to locate information they need efficiently. And so what they're doing is they're searching to learn. So you've got to generate high quality inquiry topics and search for effective, and teach them how to search for effective and efficient information, and then how to critically evaluate web sources and connect those ideas across resources. And so just finding something in one site, triangulating, seeing if it's true in a couple of different sites, looking at your web resources. How recently was this source updated? Are there authors listed for this source? Those are good ways to help you determine reliability. And then looking at the lateral reading. Who's behind this information? If there's not an author present, what can you gather about their perspective? Are they pushing in a certain agenda? What is the evidence that they're giving you? Do other people cite this evidence? And what do other sources say, not only about this source, but about the evidence that they present? So then we have the idea of online safety and digital citizenship, and the online safety is really important this day and age. And so we want to make sure students are accessing sites that don't have inappropriate materials, that we want to make sure that the sites that we find for our students and put them to are appropriate for their age group. Anything that is objectionable or might be considered objectionable, you really don't want to even go there. There's so many other good sources out there. We want to make sure our students are safe and that their security, online security, is protected. They need to understand that there's phishing and social engineering and online predators and cyberbullying, and teaching them how to recognize these phishing scams that go out to everybody's computer, and teaching them about data privacy issues, and know that their data in some places is being collected and they may not want that. We need to check on their digital well-being to monitor how much they're using technology, because if you're using technology too much, it can create a negative sense of well-being. And then their digital footprint and online identity, that even though they may delete something that they post on a social media site, it's never really gone. If somebody else screenshotted or did anything else with it, it's still out there for other people to see. So they've got to be careful when they're creating this digital footprint in their online identity. And then understanding that some people just are not very good people, and they might do things that aren't very nice, like embedding malware or tracking devices or viruses on downloads your students might put on their computer. And then there's online ethical and legal issues too, using AI. That is plagiarism. Plagiarism is taking another idea and claiming it as your own. So if you have AI write something for you, you're taking someone else's or something else's idea and claiming it as your own. And then using online to cheat, or piracy issues. And then you have digital citizenship. And when we're talking about this, we're looking at things like information literacy, teaching students to identify, locate, and evaluate information effectively, whether to determine a website is credible and giving it proper credit if they cite it. And then privacy, managing their online information, keeping it secure, strong passwords, not using the same password every time, looking and avoiding scams or schemes, looking at privacy policies rather than just scrolling down and hit accept. And then there's also the idea of, your digital footprint and identity, teaching them how to protect their privacy, respecting the privacy of others, being aware of how others perceive them online based on what they've written or posted. And then again, digital citizenship, the idea of media use and well-being. And so monitoring the digital media and its use and its relationship with happiness, well-being, mental health, that there is such thing as too much of a good thing. And then respectful relationships and communications, monitoring digital media and its use with relationships and help and happiness and mental health again. And then cyberbullying, handling cyberbullying situations and building positive, supportive online communities. And when you're looking at copyright and intellectual property, addressing plagiarism, realizing that what fair use is, that you can't just take other people's property off the internet and pass it on as your own. You've got to cite your resources. So online educational content. So oftentimes these online archives are going to be governments or universities, and they're going to require you as the teacher to find the content. Students are really going to struggle with doing these, and sometimes they can't even access them. And so this tends to support consumption by learners. So these are things that they want to read, watch, listen, and learners can also synthesize from different sources to develop meanings that extend through all of those sources. Now, immersive and or interactive web content, this tends to again support actions by learners. It allows them to make choice, to move using their multiple senses. And this can include things like simulations, 3D models, field trips, virtual and augmented reality are also part of that. The newest trend, one of the newest trends is open educational resources, OERs. And these are online searches that you can do. And OERs are different repositories and meta finders, and some are curated content, others aren't. The benefits of OERs is they meet students' learning needs and they engage students in digital information literacy, and it can improve their access to resources without any sort of budgetary constraints, and which increases educational equity among students. And it saves school districts money because they're not buying books every year, they're using these open educational resources. Now, there are challenges because it's difficult to find or know where to search for OERs. Some areas of study don't have a lot of very good OERs, and teachers, your time is going to be spent in the classroom, so it's hard to search and find these and experiment, learn how to use them. And then there's also the evaluation of integration of web content for instruction. So students need to know boundaries, intellectual and physical boundaries with web content. They need to understand the idea of looking at authority. Is this relevant? Is this accurate information? They need to understand when looking at website stability. Is this website one that's been there from the beginning of time, or can it be changed, or is this something that might be deleted down the road? And then looking at it in for terms of a pedagogical context. And this is your sort of built-in framework you have for your teaching and learning. And then disciplinary context, careful sequencing of subject area in your curricular content.